Leia Healthcare, looking after you always. Proud sponsors of Real Health with Karl Henry.
Hello and welcome to Real Health with me, Karl Henry, in association with Leia Healthcare. Folks, on this week's show, it's part of our Life Lessons series with some of Ireland's most respected and most famous personalities. I love these episodes. I love people. I'm fascinated by them, what makes them tick, how they ended up doing what they do in terms of work, and what lessons we can learn from them. They're some of our most popular episodes that we do, and we're delighted to have an amazing guest on today's show. You'll know him from the TV screens, having shot to fame on RT series At Your Service, and of course, Brennan's Grand Tour. He's the co-owner of the Park Hotel in Kenmare and author of best-selling books on home management and travel. Francis Brennan, welcome to Real Health. How are you?
Nice to be here.
So, first of all, how's life? You're down in Kerry. Obviously, we're in level 3 now. Times are challenging. Tell us about how life in Kerry's treating you.
Yeah, life in Kerry's a bit not good this morning now, to be honest, right? We're at the hotel business and we're dithering whether we should close or not, because we took over £100,000 worth of cancellations yesterday, because we're closed down after the 3 weeks. It runs into the bank holiday. We were sold out, and, so it's a bit of a quandary this morning as to what to do. So I'll be with the brother later on. We'll discuss on what exactly will happen, because we're not sure whether we should close or what, because we can only take people from Kerry. We have a terrific Kerry staycation value out there at the moment, right, where you can stay 2 for 3 or €175 a night per person, dinner, bed and breakfast. So we've done those things, but how many people in Kerry could support us, I'm not sure. So we're kind of dithering. So not the greatest morning to be talking, but listen, we still keep our hearts up and look to the future.
Were you always an optimist? It's an incredibly stressful time for yourself, for John, and for the staff at the hotel. Yes, you're bright and breezy as a button this morning. You're full of the joys of life. Were you always like that?
Always, yeah. My mum used to say, when I was a kid, I was in hospital quite a bit because I had a bad old leg. I used to be in out of Kappa. My mum said I was never, ever down. I was always, oh, that's fine. I have to go to hospital. Oh, we're going home. Great. So I suppose in that sense, I was just like that. I don't know how it is or why it is, but that's the way I am.
And is this one of the hardest times of your career so far that you've seen? The uncertainty, the opening, the closing, the borders, the level 2s, 3s, 4s, or whatever. Presumably it's one of the hardest times you've come across.
Absolutely. And it's continuing, you see. And we were out of it and now we're back in it again. And we have staff situation. If you say to staff, maybe they should say, sorry, gang, it's like 25 years ago for the moment. Because there just is no business. I mean, we can't hold all our staff and all accommodation staff, we probably about 11 or 12 of them. We can't have them. There's nobody staying. So if there's nobody staying, there's nothing for them to do. So it is a very stressful time, and for them as well, because they're going home to their families with no job, and it's just people are a bit down at the moment. So we need to keep our hearts up this week.
So if anyone is listening is in Kerry, we will tell them to check out your website and to book a staycation in the park in Kenmare and pay you a visit for some optimism, because they'll be in need of it, and as will the Park Hotel as well.
Yeah.
I suppose
many years ago, I just think there was something on years ago. I don't know what it was, some restriction or something as well. And I put up that we would take people, Munster passport holders were the only people that would come on this offer. Okay, this man rang up from Kinsale to say that his wife was English and she had an English passport. Would she be allowed in? I thought, we take any nationality if you knew the truth of it.
I suppose putting business to one side for a second, it is a hard time for businesses around the country. We've all had to adapt and had to try and change our ways in any which way possible, but especially for hospitality. But I suppose there is somewhat of a flip side in terms of there is a little bit more time to spend with family, with friends, and to also maybe have a look at business, about how the business can change and how the business can adapt. And you would strike me as someone who's very good at adapting.
Yeah, I can adapt personally now, because we were in lockdown earlier in the year, April, May and June. I came back from America on the 16th of March, having been in 19 airports in the 3 weeks before. So if anyone was ever going to carry the COVID, it would have been me, all right? So I locked down for 2 weeks, okay? And then Leo brought in the big lockdown. So I ended up being locked down for 15 weeks, where I only could go up or down the road from my house. Now, I live right on the Ring of Kerry, just off the Ring of Kerry. It's not a good road for walking because it's quite narrow where I am, and the traffic would be. I wouldn't walk today. Well, today maybe there'd be no traffic, but in normal times it's too much traffic. So I wouldn't walk it very often because it's not an easy walk, because you're all the time moving in from cars. But of course there was no traffic during the time I was there, so I used to do a 2 mile walk every day. And do you know what I revelled in? The ditch. People would say, what? I used to watch every day to see where the daisies coming, where the dandelions out, the blackberries started, there was heather, and then come June or July, we had wild strawberries, and they were absolutely gorgeous. So I reveled in the ditch, as the fellow said, as I walked. So I kept myself like optimistic to see. The only thing I didn't want to see was the Mombrisha. That's the orange flower in Kerry that we get from the ditch, because that always signals to me coming towards the end of the season. And I didn't want the season to end before it even started. So I didn't see any Mombrisha.
Yeah, so it has been a time of reflection and of kind of, of simplifying life in many regards.
Absolutely. Well, people would have been at home they had more time for their garden, they had more time for their children. I'm sure there's loads of fathers that would have been with their children that just couldn't believe the time they had with them. So there's an upside to everything, and that was the way I looked at it too. Like, I finished the diary that we're talking about. I got that through the system, all right? And got it to Gail, our publisher, 2 weeks before. Would you believe it?
Go away.
Yeah, and you know yourself, if you've written a book, have you done a book or two yourself?
I've done 5 altogether. Yeah, that deadline is always frightening. It always hangs over you till it's done. Of course it is.
I was 2 weeks in advance, so that was great. Deirdre was saying, "Oh, it's in, the book is in," because I had loads of time to do it. So that was it. And I did a lot of gardening, and I did walking, and I did things. And I was just, listen, I just said, if this is it, we just live with it. But I'm lucky that I have that mind that can do that, because I know there would be people that would be would be not able to spend time on their own as much as I had to. But my niece Ruth used to drop out my groceries ever, because I didn't even stir that far. So listen, we survived, but we're back again now. We're not sure what's going to happen now, so we'll have to see what the week brings.
Yeah, I'm going to chat about TV in a little while, and obviously the books and stuff as well. But I want to start off with, finding out how you got into doing what you do, which is, a debate like myself. I'm a personal trainer, lots of other stuff going on. But for you, you're a hotelier. And how did you get into that? Was that something you always wanted to do? Was it something you always enjoyed, or how did you get there?
Well, the hotel side is very interesting, because I remember when I was 11, Mum and Dad were intending to sell up in Dublin. My father was a grocer. He had a grocery store. He was going to sell up in Dublin, and they were going to move to Sligo to my mother's home farm and build a guest house. And they had all the plans done and everything else. My father had got married in the 50s, and he had got one of those taily coats that, Fred Astaire wears in Singing in the Rain, that type of jacket coat. And it was always in the wardrobe, and I used to dress up in it. And then when we were building a hotel, immediately I thought, I can wear the taily coat all the time, because I thought that had to be in the hotel. Okay. So I was so delighted. Anyway, the banks wouldn't give them the money, and we never went to the hotel in Sligo, so it never happened. But since 11, I always wanted to be in the hotel business. And then I worked as a kid, summer jobs in the Step in Step Aside, and I worked at night then when I was in college, weekends, like working on the floor, and I used to just love it. And then when I finished school, I went to Karl Street, and I got a degree through Trinity, a business science degree through Trinity, and the rest is history then. But I always knew I wanted to be in the hotel industry, which I think was so lucky, because youngsters, there's 18-year-olds today starting college, God bless them, changing courses this week and starting college, and they don't really know what they want to do even yet. So I was very lucky. I always knew I wanted to be in the hotel business. And then,
what is it that you love about it so much? So I've been lucky enough to stay in your hotel. It's an incredibly warm place. It's a fantastic place to stay. But there's a warmth about it that comes from yourself and John being around all the time and being so happy and upbeat and being, what do you get from it that you love so much?
I just had connection with people. Even when I was a kid, like I'd work in Dad's grocery shop, and I was always dealing with people, and I used to always love that. So that was when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All those years, I was with people all the time. And I have my mother's disposition, which is chatty and always happy. And I just ended up then going to the hotel business, but probably my nature would have been very much suited to that. I remember I went for one of those, very high tech. This wasn't a mistake. We did one of these. You had to pay £20 for it. I remember asking Mum and Dad, should I pay I had my own money. Should I pay the £20 or not? Because it was like a lot of money to pay for one of these assessments, right? And when I went to this, I did that. You had to tick all these boxes. Like nowadays it's multiple choice, I think they call it, but those days was really odd. Okay, so anyway, I did all the multiple choices anyway. So when I went for the interview, the guy said to me, now first of all, he says, never take a hammer in your hand, because whatever electrics and mechanicals, I was completely wrong. All right, he says, if it's to do with verbal skills, he says you will excel. So he was absolutely right. Now, mind you, I've improved on the toilets and the plugs and things since, because in the hotel business, you have to get kind of handy, if you know what I mean. There's always something going astray somewhere. So I have improved in that area. But anyway, he said to me, verbal skills will be your thing. So that's just the way it worked out.
And if we to give it to a tip to anyone who's listening in, to start with, it's around finding something that you love to do, that you really, really genuinely love, and follow your gut instinct into a work in that area.
I think so. And I think youngsters are afraid sometimes to say they think they have to do high tech and they think they have to do whatever. And, the ordinary jobs, I mean, there's somebody needed for all the ordinary jobs in life, okay? Be it the hotelier or a waiter or whatever. I mean, other nations look upon the hotel and hospitality industry as being a real career. Here in Ireland, we kind of like drifted in and out of being a waiter. But like, if you were looking for a head waiter today in Ireland, they're not easy to find because they don't continue. People, all of us do it in college time and all the rest, but we don't necessarily go forward with it. But if you have that, if you're not interested in academics or tech or anything like that, the hotel business and the hospitality business is brilliant for you. You can progress. It's all up to yourself when you get in.
And looking back now, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? Would you follow the same route? Would you follow the same map? Or what advice would you give yourself?
67 now, right? And you know what I say? If anyone asks me that question, I wouldn't change a thing. And if I died this minute, my life was fantastic. And, all the gurus in the world are looking to be able to say that. And I sit here thinking, yeah, I'm lucky now because I really believe that. If I drop dead now, my life was fantastic.
What are the highlights then of it? So is there anything that stands out in terms of, was it opening the hotel the first day, succeeding in the first year of the business, or, what are the highlights along the way?
All the opening the hotel and all that was all like brilliant. Now then I bought the hotel, like that was even better still. Like, I mean, that was like unbelievable at 24. I mean, I didn't pay any attention to it. And, I didn't tell anybody when I bought it, funny enough, because everything was the same as before, as afterwards. And what was the difference? It didn't matter that I was the owner. It was really funny like that. And then one of the best things that we won was the Egon Roning Hotel Award of the Year, which is at the time was like higher than the Michelin even, okay, at the time. And we were the best hotel in Ireland and England. Like, it was great now to go back to. I was traveling with a group of friends and I left them early because I came back to London for the awards. I knew we were in the top 3, but I didn't ever think we'd win. But when we won, it was just unbelievable. But the thing was, there was nobody there, only myself, not one person, because we didn't ever thought we were going to win. And I didn't know I was picked for the final 3 because I was away. We were away on holidays and I had to come home early. So like nobody came from the hotel with me or anything like that. So here I am standing in London with this big plate, which we still have, lovely plate award. And like nobody there, only me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we won this, but then when I came back to the Cork airport, they had a reception for me, which was really nice. The airport had a bit of a fuss, because it was great to win in all of Ireland and England. I know other hotel had won it before, so it was great.
Where did the ambition and the drive come from? You say it very nonchalantly, as if, we won this award and I bought the hotel at 24. And people listening are thinking, 24? I barely know what 24-year-olds, wouldn't know what they want to do with their lives generally. And you bought a hotel, you built it to win the awards. Where did the drive come from and the ambition come from?
I don't know anything about drive. I just do what I do. And today is the very same. I don't ever think about I'm not good at planning out. I never sit down and say, and I'll own this and I'll own that. Other than I knew I wanted to be in the hotel business, and everything else just falls into place. And there's a man above, of course, with whom I believe even very much, all right, the God above. And he's so good to me. Like, he looks after me. I mean, I just land on my feet every time and I think, oh my God, he's great. Yeah. And I'm lucky to have a faith as well as everything else. So I'm just one of those lucky people.
And was religion, your faith, always important to you?
Yeah, always, yeah. Like, we could be anywhere. We could be in Russia, or we could be in, where would you be? That should be funny. Patagonia or somewhere. But I always try and find a church on Sunday. Always. And we always succeed, And over the years, that has been great too, because you meet a community of people where you wouldn't meet anybody before. And, especially in America, they're great in America. Like, you could be in Wyoming and I go to Mass on Sunday because it's Sunday. And then they have this tea and coffee downstairs afterwards. And then when they hear you're Irish, my God, they're so excited by Irish people in America. And of course, I do have an Irish accent, which I don't know anything about. But they love my Irish. I mean, the Americans say to me, oh, don't stop talking. We love your accent. Like, keep talking, Francis. That's no trouble in him. But keep talking, Francis, because we love your accent. So the church has been great because I've been invited to homes all over the world when you be away. Someone say, and I'm always, not always, but often away on my own because I would be doing sales calls with tourist stuff and all the rest. So I could be there. So they say, come home, come on, would you like to come on? Then they're delighted to have an Irishman to visit, So my religion has been very important to me, yeah.
My next question is about why Kerry, and how did Kerry take to you? So, you're full of beans, you're gregarious, you're quite flamboyant, and then as a dub, you rock into Kerry to work in the hotel. Why Kerry, and then how did Kerry take to you?
I'll tell you how I came to Kerry. First of all, I was in college in Bruce Street. It was Christmas time. The Park still a Great Southern Hotel based near Sneem wanted staff. So myself and another girl went on a train from Dublin to Killarney. I remember we got into the back of a Ford Transit van with no windows, and there was all supplies in it. There was fish and there was beef from FX Buckley. They dealt with FX Buckley, the butchers, and whatever else. And we got into this van and we took off. Now, I had never been in Kerry before, ever. Okay, so we drive from Killarney to Parknasilla, which is 3 miles further than Sneem, over the McGillicuddy Reeks. Okay,
beautiful,
yeah. But that was pitch black dark, so we couldn't see a thing. And I thought, as we drove, I thought there could be nowhere this far from Killarney. Where are we going? All right. So then we arrived at Parknasilla, and that was at Christmas. I worked there. Then I came back the following summer. And then thereafter, I got really well into Parknasilla, and then I went down there to work full time. There was a man near there that had bought the Killarney or the Kenmare Park, Great Southern. Okay, it was sitting idle for 4 years. He was developing it. He wanted me. Now I'm only out of college a wet week, right? And he wanted me to be the GM. I said, forget it. I don't know half enough. So I went to work in Cork afterwards then for 2 years, and I opened a hotel in Cork, which is always a great experience to open a hotel. You have to remember everything, including the toothpicks. So it's quite a big job. Yeah. It's quite a big job to open a hotel. So I opened a hotel in Cork, and then 2 years later, your man came back and said that he had a Swiss manager that couldn't understand Ireland because they made an appointment for 9 o'clock on Tuesday, and the fella came at 5 o'clock on Thursday. But that wouldn't worry me one bit. That would be fine. We'd get over that, right? But he couldn't cope. So he left. So he came. So I went to Kenmare. That was 1979. And I worked for him for 4 years. And then he went bust. And then I leased it for 2 years, and then I bought it. So that's how I got to Kerry. I just happened to go for a Christmas job, and I never left. Well, I went for 2 years to Cork. But I love Kerry. I just absolutely love it, you know.
And I suppose change has always been something in your life that you've been really good at. When I think of the hotel, you guys opened the spa. You're probably one of the first hotels in the country to open this amazing spa before anybody else got into it.
Yeah, well, it was interesting about the spa, I'll tell you, because the listeners mentioned this. So we're in the hotel and it's 1980, and then John comes in about 1988. I can't remember. I'm hopeless on dates, but he came at the end of the 80s. And then we're into the 90s, and we had lovely guests and all the rest, but they were all elderly, okay? And then we noticed that we were losing a few people because they were too old to travel or whatever might happen. So we decided, I always say, and I talk to colleges sometimes, and I open up by saying, we built a spa because all our guests were dying. And everybody sits up thinking, what is he talking about? Well, we had to take our average age of our guests down because we were ending up with the higher end of the age traveller. Okay? So we were losing people all the time, okay, rather than revisit. Like the whole thing is retention, I guess, and get them back and get them back. So we decided we'd build a spa, I remember. And I had spoken years before that now, I had been talking to people in Montreux that were very keen that they would open up a unit at the Park Hotel Kenmare. They had a unit in Marbella and they had a unit in Switzerland, but they wanted a unit in a temperate climate, which is what we have here. And I went out to Switzerland to meet them, and it was all hush and don't say a word. I sat in a little room all my own, and then they brought me in, and then they were explaining to me all about their treatments. And the biggest treatment they did was, okay, they take the placenta from a lamb after the birth, okay, and inject it into your spleen. Now, I nearly fell off the chair because I thought, oh my God, we'll have the IFA, the Irish Farmers Association at the time, will be at the gate with placards because I'm taking the placenta off the sheep off the Kerry Mountains. And I just moved back very quietly. I said, thank you very much. Not keen on this. Okay, so I never did the spa then. Then 5 or 6 years later, we met Susan Harmsworth. You made her come across her, SPAC, or whom I had met at a conference. Lovely lady, I really like her. And she had done lovely spas. And I said to John, if you're over opening a spa, go and talk to Susan Harmsworth. She'll put us right. And that's how we got what we have. Because we have the most, well, not the most beautiful spa, I suppose, but a beautiful spa, which it reminds me of Frank Lloyd Wright building. It doesn't age. In 20 years' time, it'll be exactly the same. We only use the rock that we took out of the ground, we fashioned it and put it back into the building. We have glass and wood, and that's it. You know, it's so simple, but it has a lifetime and it won't age. And we do a very good spa business, yeah.
And then the next big change that came along was, of course, television and jumping into TV in terms of at your service and everything else that's come off the back of that. Where did that come from? And did you always want to get into TV?
No, not at all. Completely uninterested in TV. I don't even watch TV very much. But the TV situation was, I'll tell you how it started. First of all, I had bought a house downtown, small little house. My head chef lived in it for years. And then John, when he came to Kerry, lived in it for 2 years. And then it lay idle. There was nobody in it at all. Lovely little house up the back street, okay? So I was sitting watching the news one night, and there's an ad afterwards. If you have a house with a project or anything or whatever, ring this number. I thought, I should do that for the house in Rock Street. That's where it was positioned. So I didn't write down the number, I left it. But then 2 days later, or 3 days later, I was watching the news again, and here it came up. So I wrote down the number. So I phoned the next day, and the girl said, you have to send in an A4 page with what you proposed to do with your project, and we'll evaluate it. So they got over 400 applications, and like 3 months later, they came back and said I was one of 20. And then they came to interview me, and they were really surprised because I had a file, which I always do this. If I see a nice table, a nice chair, a lovely window, a lamp, I tear it out of the magazine and put it in this file. So when we came to build a house, I knew what I liked, and it was all in the file. So I knew the door handles and everything that I wanted. Okay, so they thought I was really organised and very available to go. So they did 6 houses as a project for a show, 1 hour show each. And I was picked for that. Okay, it was brilliant television because I got in trouble with the county council, I got in trouble with the builder, I got in trouble with water supply. Brilliant television. And Grania McAleer, I don't know if you ever know.
I know Grania very well. I certainly do. Yeah.
She's one of the RT ladies out there. Grania said to Waddell Media, who are the company that produced At Your Service, when they came to propose the show, she said, "We'll do the show if you get Francis Brennan." Now they didn't know who I was. So I was away in America at the time, actually, and they phoned John. And John, when I came back, John says, "I've arranged for you to do a TV show." I said, "John, I'm not doing a TV show." So they had to come after me. And eventually I said yes. And the rest is history now.
And do you ever get stressed, worried, concerned about what people think?
No, plenty of no worry in my life. I never worry about it. Okay, because everybody spends now, like they're all worrying about, Christmas now. The whole country is up in arms about Christmas, right? I'm not even thinking that. Listen, by the time you get to next week, everything could be fine, and there'd be a vaccine, and everybody would be delighted, and Christmas would be the norm. So what would I be worrying about Christmas today for? In the first few days of October, I don't know. I don't worry too much at all. But I have been lucky, I suppose, over the years that things go my way, and I have been lucky.
And is that something, I suppose we interviewed Micheál O'Mahony before. That was one of his key things in life. He was like, "Don't worry, just don't. It'll all be okay. Don't worry, and don't sweat the small stuff." And in terms of tips for people listening in, that's, by the sounds of it, a key tip for life.
I have a thing called plenty of no notice, right? Like, so-and-so is sick. Just do no notice. She'll be fine tomorrow, and she is, all right? Like, what are we going to do about that, Mr. Brennan? Don't worry about it. Like, it'll be fine. And I'm 67. Everything was fine. Nothing ever went wrong. It might have been not the way we wanted, or something might have changed, or we weren't as busy as we should have been, but we get through it. So what would you be worrying about?
And it's an amazing way to go through. I'm picturing you're sitting there. You've had over 100,000 euros worth of cancellations come in yesterday, and you're like, you know what? It's grand. I'm in admiration of that approach. It's fantastic.
No, I agree. I'm not being flippant about the 100,000 or anything like that. But what can I do? Sure, I can't do a thing about it. Like it was never. I'm disappointed for all the people that were meant to come, because they were looking forward to their few days away, and perhaps some of them worked out at home since April or May, and here they were all set to go, and all of a sudden it's cancelled. Now we are lucky, because what we generally do with that, we try and move them forward to the next available date or whatever. So we do try to give them the opportunity of coming in at another time. But a lot of people, now I know John had a couple of weddings, small weddings lined up in Kenmare, his place out the road, like 40 people or something this week and next week, but they're gone now too.
Of course, they're down to 25, and you have to be within the county, of course, so that's a total change. But your approach to life generally, and we've seen it on the TV show, and you can almost feel it from the books when you read them, is plough on, and it's plough on positively, and just do your best, and just keep going.
Well, there's no point of being pessimistic and down. I watched the movie yesterday, all right? Just A River Runs Through It, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a lovely movie. The two brothers, there's Brad Pitt is the gangster fella, and the other lad, all right? And just their faces alone, like Brad Pitt is sunshine every time on the screen, because he's God bless him, it's a lovely film, beautiful film, but the brother is so serious. But the contrast between the two of them is just brilliant, as two faces. always worried, not a bother, and it just shows up lovely.
And is that a reflection of yourself and John?
I know John. No, John is good. Well, John thinks, like, never stops thinking. He's always like, I sometimes say, will you just stop thinking, John? Because, you know, your mind is going 90 to the dozen, you know, and he wouldn't be a great sleeper. He could be up you could get an email from him at 3 o'clock in the morning now, John, because I was thinking that, you know, or maybe we should be, John, you should be asleep. I would be.
And then you got into books, and of course the latest book is out now, The Homekeeper's Diary for 2021. Just give us a couple of quick tips for listeners around, you know, how to keep your home and how to keep your home well. What are the simplest tips you can give?
Okay, the best thing about the diary is that the front 25 pages will give you loads of information for life, inverted commas. Like you have your doctor's number, your PPS number, your blood group, okay? The plumber's number, because there is no point in worrying about the flood and running around the kitchen when the water's ploughing out of the wall and you're thinking, where was that fellow? Was his name Johnny or Jim? You know, so that alone would be worth it. The one that's getting the most comments is that we have 60 symbols for washing clothes, all right? People didn't know that many existed. Well, I didn't either, so we went looking, all right? But the simple things, and so the notes, and they're big. Do you know what I mean? You know, on the back of the shirt, you're thinking, what's that? Does that say you can?
Of course, yeah.
And the glasses are downstairs, and you chance it, and it shrinks. Do you know? So, like, it's not worth it. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff in it. And then another one. This is very good for youngsters, particularly. When you bake nowadays, you can pick up a recipe off the internet anywhere. Okay, but it could be an American recipe, and the American recipe refers to a cup of flour and a stick of sugar. Well, we haven't got a clue. Because where we go. So all of those things are explained. A cup of sugar, the equivalent in weight for Ireland. And the stick of sugar, interesting enough, if anyone travels in America and they buy a pound of butter, the butter comes in a cardboard box, cardboard like wrapped around, okay, and there's 4 sticks in it, all the same size, okay, 4 ounces each. So a stick of butter is 4 ounces. And every American knows they don't ever have to weigh anything. And, you know, 2 ounces is half a stick of butter. So they know exactly where they're going. But of course, in Ireland, a stick of butter, we haven't got a notion. So we demyth all those sort of things. Or zip code, which is nobody can ever find where they want it. So I see this book as generally being on the kitchen table or in the kitchen, where you can always refer to it, or by the phone in the hall, whatever.
Yeah, it's a one-stop shop for everything that you need to know for the household. Yeah, it puts a little bit of structure on life.
But then we go through it seasonally, you know, like we start for recipes, we start with rhubarb and that sort of things. Then we go on to later in the autumn, we have the apples and the blackberries, and then we go on to little notes, 2 or 3 mentions, the Christmas cake, because everybody wants to make it in November, but doesn't always do that. And I always say a Christmas cake won't ever say no to a lovely glass of whiskey to be poured over it if you make it in November. It's lovely and moist at Christmas time. Because the glass of whiskey soaks into it and is very happy sitting there. So we put a few pointers like that out, you know, and then we have quotes and different things. So like and there's plenty of space for you to write your own notes, and you can, you know, it's a reference as well as a diary.
Fantastic. So it's called The Homekeeper's Diary 2021. It's available in all good bookstores nationwide. Give us a little flick on the screen there now. There we go. Fantastic.
Yeah, and it's published by Gill. And as you say, it's all good stores.
Amazing. Well, Francis, it's been great to catch up with you. I haven't seen you for a long time, and myself and my wife will let me down, hopefully, when this is all over, to visit and support you guys as ever.
Say hello to Mum and Dad too.
I will, of course. Listen, it's been great to catch up with you, and keep safe over the next couple of months. Folks, it's been a fascinating episode catching up with Francis Brennan. The Lessons of Life episodes always are why people end up doing what they do and what tips and lessons we can learn from them. As ever, you know where we are. We're available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. And don't forget to rate and review. It's realhealth@independent.ie. As ever, we shall see you next week with more Real Health.
Leia Healthcare, looking after you always. Proud sponsors of Real Health with Karl Henry.